Hello YouTube and welcome to today's video. If you are a regular viewer, then it's great to have you join me once again, and if you're a new viewer, welcome to A Cumbrian Lad Outdoors. At the moment I am just in my permission woodlands. As you can see, we've got another 3 people just on with setting up, and we are waiting for one more to join us. Today is a little bit of an early Christmas get together for a few of us YouTubers that I've met on my years on YouTube. Most of this camp is going to be off camera. The purpose of today's video is to have a closer look and give my review on the Naturehike Massif 2-person hot tent, which you saw me use on my last video down at Bradford when I joined the English Woodsman for a hot tent camp, the first of the season. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at the Naturehike Massif. And here it is. As you can see, the pack size isn't small. 52 by 32 by 17 centimeters as it's packed like this. And the weight, well, if you look it up online, you get varying amounts, but it's usually somewhere between 4.4 and 4.6 kilos. So not light, but also not super heavy. Right, let's get it laid out and put together, and I'll show you how to do that. As you can see on the bag, we've got 2 quick release clips and a drawstring with a toggle. And there's the tent itself. Now I am very lucky to have this piece of woodland as a private permission, but the ground here isn't overly flat, so I'm going to have to make the best of a not perfect situation when setting up this tent. Got it laid out on the floor, so what I need to do first is put 1 peg in each of the 4 corners just to stop the wind blowing it away. The pegs that you get with it are Naturehike and in a Y shape. However, you don't get enough of them, so as you can see, I've bought some extra ones, just cheap ones off of Amazon. You see there, it is relatively flat and relatively pegged out taut, and that's a lot of poles. So inside here you've got 2 long poles that go corner to corner. You've got 1 pole that goes from the centre around the back side to the centre, and a short one that goes over the top. So I'll get them laid out and we'll take a closer look. Now the poles are good quality 7001 aluminium alloy. I've got the 2 shorter ones here. That's the one that goes across the back of the tent. That's the one that goes across the top. And you can see there, I've laid the 2 main ones out, ready to go in. And you can see there is sleeves for them to go through, which also keeps them separate. And all you do is click one end of each pole into these little grommets, and then push from the other end, and the tent erects itself. And there you go, you can see that that has pushed the main body of the tent up. Next thing to do is put the pole in that wraps around the back. And you can see there, just by adding that third pole, that totally transforms the shape of the tent. You can see she's not finished getting set up just yet. On the top, you will notice that there is a bit of reinforcement there for that top pole to stop it rubbing. And once you've got this pole in, it lifts the sides up even more so. You will see on the side we have these hooks that go over the poles. You will notice that the stitching is absolutely on point, and these clips are good and sturdy. So when you clip them on, you get a very satisfying click, and you can see there just on that one corner what a difference that has made to how tight and sturdy the tent is. So I'm going to go around the whole tent and put those clips on. It is a very satisfying click, that. I do like it. And there we go, you can see what a difference just clipping the sides of the fly sheet onto those poles really makes. It's not even fully pegged out or tied down just yet. Like I say, at this point I've only got 4 pegs in. So what I like to do is take 2 pegs out of one end and just make sure that it's nice and square, put them back in nice and tight. And now that that's done, I can go around the entire rest of the tent and peg it out properly. In the centre, either side, there's another peg out point. You can see there that needs to be pulled out. Each snow skirt either side has a pegging out point. There's another one here by the back door. So we'll get that done and get all the guy lines on as well. And there we have it. She is all set up. You will notice what a big difference being able to peg down the snow skirts makes. Obviously where there's a door you want to get in and out of, you can't peg this corner of it down, but being able to peg the snow skirts down means that it holds the heat in a lot more. Now the fly sheet is UV protected 30D silicone coated nylon, which is also ripstop, and has a hydrostatic head of 3000mm. Just looking around the tent, you can see how taut she is. You will notice at the back end they've given you enough length on the loop to wrap around where the poles cross over. That really does add quite a little bit of strength. And you will notice that is quite sturdy for a hot tent. You are supposed to get some fairly decent winds up to the high 30 miles an hour overnight and some heavy rain early in the morning. So that'll also be a good test of this tent. We'll get her all opened up and show you all the different door configurations and what she looks like inside. Only the second time setting up this tent, and I reckon I can have it done in 10 to 15 minutes. At the back side you can see the smallest of the doors gives you access to a small vestibule which is perfect for putting your boots and your rucksack. You can also enter the sleeping compartment of the tent from this side. The mesh is a fine polyester. The ground sheet is 70D nylon, and that also has a hydrostatic head of 3000mm. Coming round to the front of the tent, you can see I've got the main door rolled up. We've got a fine mesh, which means if there's a few flies around but you still want to enjoy the view out of the tent, you can sit inside and the flies can't get at you. You can roll this all up in one, so the front is open, and if you wanted to pull this out level and use some walking sticks to make an awning, you can most definitely do that. Coming into the main body of the tent, you can see this door is rolled up. However, on the outside of this door there is also a mesh, which means if you want to open up on the inside and still retain a little bit of heat and or not let the flies in, then you can do that. Now, set up like this, it is 3.6 meters long, 1.45 meters high and 2.3 meters wide, which means there's more than enough space to sit in your chair in this vestibule and cook on the stove with enough room over your head to make it comfortable. You can see the hole for the stove flue to go through. That is covered at the moment. Inside the sleeping area there is most definitely room for 2 people. However, if you're a tall chap like me, I'm 6'3", there's only just enough room without going corner to corner. So if you're taller than 6'3", you might want to factor that in on your choice of purchasing this tent. All the tie out points inside are really high quality. You've got a hook to hang a light off there. You've got a mesh pocket in that corner and a mesh pocket in that corner too. You will notice that the sleeping area doesn't go at the full height of the tent. So in the middle of winter you won't need this bug mesh. You can use this tent without it, and that'll create even more space towards the back of the tent. On the outside of the tent you can see where the pole's attached, everything is reinforced nicely. Once again, all the stitching is absolutely on point. And either side at the back there are 2 vents. Simply undo the velcro, you've got a little stand that holds that open. So if it does get too hot for you, you can quite easily let a bit of heat out either with these or zipping the door down with the mesh intact. You can see there the hole where the flue of the chimney goes through is all nicely sewn. You've got your heat proof material, which does char slightly, which is only to be expected, but once again all the sewing's on point. Now, as I've mentioned in my last video when I used this tent for the first time, I did and ah about buying this tent because it's a nature hike. They're generally renowned for doing copies, cheap copies of other tents, but for me, I really do think they've pulled it out of the bag with this tent. I really do. So that is a much more in-depth look at the Naturehike Massif 2-man hot tent for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get all my stuff inside the tent, enjoy a bit of time at camp. I'll bring you back in the morning. Hopefully we'll have had some breezy weather and some wet weather, and we'll see how she manages with that. So we'll see you then. Well, me and the gang have had a cracking catch up around camp. We've had a lovely campfire. It's now 11:15, so I've got myself back in the tent. It's almost bedtime, but I have got the stove lit. We've had some pretty stiff breezes and the tent stood strong. The chimney flue is good and solid. We've also had a couple of rain showers. The tent is wet and there's no signs of any leaks whatsoever. As I said before, that rain is supposed to come in an awful lot heavier, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning. So hopefully we'll get more of a rain test with this tent in the early hours, and I'll give you an update on that in the morning. You can see me sleeping ensemble there. Seat Summit Etherlight XT Extreme, Aeros Premium pillow and the OEX Leviathan EV900, and you can see what I was meaning before. There is just enough room lengthways in that sleeping compartment for a fella of 6'3". Once again, you can see I'm sat on my chair and I'm reaching up slightly in front of myself, just about full arm's width to hit that ceiling. So there's plenty of room in the front vestibule of this tent where the stove is, and it's a nice place to be as well. And that fire, a little stove, is going good and proper. So consequently it's starting to warm up nicely in here. So it is time for me to get my head down and get a good night's sleep, nice and toasty warm in the hot tent. Just as I'm getting in my bed, you can hear the rain started. It's nice and warm and cosy in here, so we are going to get a good rain test of this tent overnight. Morning everyone. A very good toasty warm night's sleep in the Naturehike Massif. As you can hear, we've got some pretty consistent heavy rain. I did wake up about midnight and it was raining then, so we've had consistent rain pretty much since then. And the tent is holding up very well indeed. We've got no leaks. That is just a shadow there. A little bit of water ingress through the chimney hole down the chimney flue, but nothing. If I hold that up there, you can see the water sitting on the outside of the tent. There's a little mark there, but that is just a bit of debris on the outside of the tent that is obviously holding onto a bit of water. Yeah, the tent has been absolutely solid. Yeah, it's getting pretty hard now in places. So yeah, all round this tent has really impressed me. It really has. Far, far better than I was expecting. And I was expecting it to be good. Right, time for a spot of breakfast, I reckon. Just got the breakfast on. As you can hear, the rain is very heavy now. And I've made a start packing up my gear. Here we go, we've got the Yeti Lifesaver breakfast on the go. But what I thought I'd show you is the floor underneath where I had my sleeping mat and my sleeping bag. The grass under there was soaking when I set the tent up. And you can see there's no sign whatsoever of any water getting through that bottom. Like I say, that grass was soaking wet, so proper chuff with that. Yep, she's definitely waterproof. One thing I do find a little bit annoying is this tension rope here going across the main entrance. I do find that I tend to trip over that a little bit, but I guess it's a necessity. Breakfast is just about done. We are getting a little bit more rain through the flue of the chimney. This is only to be expected. If that fire was going and that flue was hot, a high percentage of that would evaporate. I also do have a little bit of condensation due to the jet boil boiling the water for my breakfast. Once again, that is to be expected. You're inside a warm tent, it's raining outside, the outside of the tent's cold. You're going to get a little bit of condensation. Boy, am I ready for this breakfast. Morning coffee and a proper breakfast too. Oh, so good. And on a miserable morning like this outside, when it's raining, it's still dark, this tent means I can sit comfortably in my porch
If I wanted to have the fire on, I could do. Obviously it needs to be cool to pack away this morning, which is why I've used the jet oil for the breakfast. And I can sit in comfort. I'm not crouched over like you would be in a mountain tent. It's great. Right, I'm going to get myself away, finish my morning coffee and my breakfast. Then it'll be time to wake the rest of the gang up, pack up and go home. If you've got any questions on anything that you think I might not have covered on this review, then please drop me a comment and I'll answer it as soon as I can. I hope you've enjoyed this in-depth review of the Naturehike Massif 2-person hot tent. I'm looking forward to getting out on the fells very soon. So we'll see you then. Once again, until next time, stay safe, much love from a Cumbrian lad.